Booktube. Today I come to you with a review of Shades of Milk and Honey by Mary Robinette Kowal, 2010 book, her debut book, book one in her the Glamorous Histories book series. Set in Regency, England, starring a main character named Jane. So maybe not surprisingly, it's very much a Jane Austen pastiche, at least in book one. I kind of skipped and looked at the descriptions of the ones going forward, and they seem a little bit more action-packed, which actually turns out to be not a surprise, because while this book starts out as very much a Jane Austen kind of style story of Jane is a very plain, sensible, very talented older sister in the Elmsworth family, which isn't a hugely wealthy family, and indeed Mr. Elmsworth is worried about, marrying his daughters off properly, as one is in a Jane Austen book. But the kind of the twist in this series is that the talent that Jane has is that she is a talented glamourist, because in this alternate history world, magic is a thing, and specifically the magic of glamour, which is kind of your weaving illusions, weaving kind of seems to be a great thing of it is making kind of tableaus, beautiful tableaus for the entertainment of the people there. It also involves, you can kind of create sounds, you can actually record sounds and stuff like that in this society. It's kind of a very useful little kind of talent. You'd think it would have a little bit more effect, but we're very much keeping this as a amusing art, a suitable occupation for a young lady who is hoping to attract a proper husband. This kind of classifies with, painting and with music as something that a young woman would do in this highly closeted society, where women, at least of the middle class and upper, are not expected, to do anything other than basically make themselves look good for prospective husbands, because that's the only thing that they're allowed to do in this horrible dystopian nightmare society. Well, no, that's my own thing. This isn't a dystopian nightmare society, unless you consider Regency England for women to be sort of a dystopian society, which maybe I do. So yes, she is the plain but talented older sister, where there's a beautiful Melody is her beautiful younger sister, who of course is the one who seems to attract all the attention. And of course Jane, to a certain amount of tedious effect, goes through a lot of this novel saying, well, no one could actually find me attractive. No one could ever, think that I was worthy of attention. And if anyone actually ever compliments me, they're just being kind. And to a certain degree, you just want to slap her around and go, look, there's obviously a bunch of dudes here that actually do find you interesting. And, that even your younger sister, who seems to have a bit of a passive aggressive thing towards you, is like, God, you've got all the talents, kind of that sort of thing. So it kind of goes along in that way. The characters probably, they're not as deep as in a Jane Austen novel. This is obviously a novelist who kind of loves this kind of time period, or else he wouldn't be spending the thing there. Whereas you get the sense with Jane Austen, she was kind of jabbing her knives in. There's not the knives there, so this is very kind of comfort food, very kind of popcorny. I don't kind of despise it on that realm. So people who are maybe expecting more of a kind of a Jane Austen bite might kind of find this a little bit tedious that way. I found it very kind of comfort food. Not much happens, but I enjoyed the characters. Not much happens, but then suddenly for the ending of this book got suddenly there was a dastardly villain in this thing, and I mean really dastardly. I sort of wished that had come to light a little bit sooner, and it had been a little bit more viperous earlier on in the novel. It would have kind of enlivened it, made it a little bit more engaging as it went along. As it is, we have a bit of a kind of an action climax in this book, which felt a little bit out of place. I think it sounds like it, as the books go on, from what I looked at the descriptions of the other various plots of the book, it gets a little bit more actiony, a little bit more, they're going to have Jane and whoever actually she turns out to hook up with, kind of will have adventures. You know, it has a satisfying at the very end, a kind of the kiss, because you know this is Mary and Robin Kowal isn't going to have sex scenes in this book, which she may or may not be that great at. Steve Partridge, I'll look for. I don't know how Calculating Stars went, but in this book it's very much Regency romance with no smut, as I think is as these things are described. I liked some of the male characters in the book were actually interesting as kind of worthy love interests. There is Mr. Dunkirk and his sister Beth as one possible thing, and then there's Mr. Vincent, a kind of the more kind of working class artist who's been kind of hired by one of the rich local gentry, and he's very snooty and seems to have no time for Jane, and indeed finds her rather, she, of course, this is all from her perspective, finds her quite invasive, or feeling she's being too analytical, and he seems to despise her. Of course, as the novel goes on, what will we discover? So yeah, it's enjoyable. It's something that was enjoyable popcorn. I'm not going to rush to find the next one. It's definitely going to be one of those, if I found the second one on sale somewhere and I wanted something light to just sort of pass the time, which is not a bad thing. I know that a lot of people are very much, this has to be the thing that counts, this thing it's like, it's got to be hard hitting all the time. It's like, you need those kind of light books. It is very much Austen pastiche. I'm not an Austen scholar. I might, if you were, you might find this book more annoying than I probably find a lot more faults in it. It's an entertainment. It's that, and as such, it does its job. So yeah, that's my review of Shades of Milk and Honey. And God, I'm trembling here because it's an overcast day in Victoria, and blah, 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 blah. All right, well. The hard winter of Victoria, BC. Oh boy. More videos later.